Before the MCU, before post-credit scenes, before the word multiverse meant anything to Hollywood, there was one movie that was established back in May of 2000, and that's X-Men. Today on a little detour on the road to Avengers Doomsday, we're going to talk about a movie that proved comic films can be taken seriously again. And that was this movie itself. X-Men didn't just save Marvel on screen. It launched careers, built a franchise, and laid groundwork for everything that came after. So without further ado, let's rewind. By the late 1990s, Marvel was in pretty big trouble. Yes, Blade came out in 1998 and was a success, but that movie didn't feel like a Marvel comic to public eye. It felt like its own thing. Before that, Marvel movies were rough, so Marvel did what it had to do. They had licensed their characters to big franchises, to big studios, and that's how 20th Century Fox ended up with the X-Men. And honestly, that decision kind of changed everything. Enter Bryan Singer. Director Bryan Singer came in for a specific vision. He didn't just want bright spandex. He didn't want a campy movie. He wanted realism. Singer treated X-Men less like superheroes and more like outsiders. People feared or being different. Mutants aren't just cool powers. They're metaphors. And that grounded approach is shown why this movie actually worked. Now let's talk about the cast, because this lineup was really legendary back in the early 2000s and still is talked about to this day. Starting with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Originally, Wolverine was not going to be played by Hugh Jackman. He was really the last minute replacement, something I didn't know when I was reading this script. At the last minute choice turned Hugh Jackman to a global star. Jackman's Wolverine was angry, demanding, sarcastic, but also vulnerable. He was a superhero trying to save the world. He's just a guy trying to understand who he was. This role didn't just define Wolverine, it defined Hugh Jackman's career forever. Next up, Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Let's be real, Patrick Stewart is the Professor Charles Xavier. He brought the calm, wisdom, and quiet authority to the role. When Stewart speaks in the movie, you listen. He gave the X-Men credibility. He made them feel very important. And then there's Ian McKellen as this movie's villain, Eric Ledger as Magneto. McKellen gave one of the best comic book villain performances ever. Magneto isn't just evil, he is really afraid. A Holocaust survivor who believes mutants will be hunted next. And honestly, you understand why he really thinks that. McKellen gave Magneto depth, pain, and tragedy. And suddenly, comic book villains weren't just bad guys anymore. James Marsden stepped in as Cyclops, the field leader of the X-Men. While the later movies didn't always do him justice, he was always so confident, disciplined, and loyal, especially to Professor X and Jean Grey. He feels like a leader, even if the spotlight wasn't always set on him. As for the rest of the team, Halle Berry's Storm with the groundbreaking visuals with her powers, Frank Famke Jensen as Jean Grey. She gives that stone cold feeling, and it's just great acting from that actress. And also Anna Paquin as Rogue, the emotional horror movie from a scared teenager to becoming part of the X-Men with her powers being able to absorb others. And it's pretty cool. And Rogue's journey was being afraid of her own touch, and this grounds the entire audience. We understand what Rogue's going through, and I like how it builds up. And it's pretty fantastic of how it's done there. We experience this world through her, and that was a pretty smart move. I also gotta give credit to the other actors who played some other characters in the movie. For example, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, using physical performance more than dialogue. And fun fact, the prosthetics on her body that took 6 to 7 hours to apply. And I gotta give credit to that. And I'm glad Rebecca Romijn's coming back as Mystique in Avengers Doomsday. That was really great. Tyler Mane as Sabretooth was really fantastic, and I liked his performance, and it was really good to see him again, Deadpool Wolverine. That was pretty great. And lastly, Ray Park as Toad, and I just knew him from Darth Maul. I'm dang, He could imagine throwing a red lightsaber. That'd be pretty funny. But anyways, the reason why, so why did this X-Men movie work while ours succeeded? There are three reasons why it worked. One, it took the story very seriously. No winking at the camera, no jokes undercut emotional moments, and the movie respected its audience. Two, the themes mattered. Discrimination, fear of unknown, identity. These weren't side ideas. These are the core of the story. You have had no idea like who is a mutant or who's normal. And I like how it does that pretty well. Three, the characters came first. The powers are cool, but they weren't the point. The people were. So X-Men was a huge success at the box office, a critical win, and most importantly, it proved something really grounded. Superhero movies could do work without being cheesy. This movie led to like a giant franchise that I knew today. Like we'll get some 2 sequels, X2 and X-Men: The Last Stand, 3 Wolverine solo films, prequels, spin-offs, and later on, some characters from the X-Men joined the MCU many years later. Without X-Men, there'll be no modern superhero era. And I know what you're thinking, why does it matter if I talk about this movie on this video? Even though the X-Men were a part of the MCU back then, this movie built the road Marvel would eventually walk. It shows studios Marvel characters mattered. Audiences would show up that these stories had weight. Now that the mutants are taking their first steps in the MCU, and we get to see most of the characters I've said, like including Cyclops, Magnetos, Professor X, and others in the in Avengers Doomsday. It'll be pretty fantastic to see it. And all traces thanks to this movie. So Black Leather to Wolverine's claws to Magneto's speech. The movie changed everything. In conclusion, X-Men isn't just a good superhero movie. It was a foundation. And on the road to Avengers Doomsday, this is the moment Marvel could prove to rise again. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this review. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.